Well, I had a chance, Steve, to see the Tampa Bay Lightning against Florida up close and personal. When I say up close, I mean like 2 seats on the window. And let me just say, Florida is so much better than the Lightning right now. At least they play that way. It's incredible how good they are. And they may win the Stanley Cup again, and that would not surprise me. And I can kind of feel like what other teams must have felt about the Lightning when they were on their run, to going to 3 Stanley Cups and winning 2 of them. But there's got to be some changes made on this hockey team in Tampa Bay. I don't know how drastic they are, but man, you've got some older players and you've got some stars. And I'm sorry, I watched this guy closely. Nikita Kucherov was not a factor at all in this series, and he hasn't been scoring in playoff games for a very long time. But when they do the postmortem on this season and they think about how do we create a team that's capable of competing and or hopefully beating the Florida Panthers, I mean, you're going to have to see some changes. The Lightning have a bunch of older stars, guys in their 30s, some of them in their mid 30s, and it felt like, and I know a lot of guys are under contract, but I'm telling you, it felt like, okay, 3 straight, one and dones in the playoffs, losing the first round. And that's certainly not been their standard. But man, it feels like they're about to undergo significant change, or that they need to, because I don't think they're close at all to playing and or beating the Panthers as they're constructed right now. It just doesn't seem that way.
First of all, I don't think they're as old as you think they are.
Let's think about this. I mean, McDonough, okay, he came back. He's 36.
McDonough most definitely is. I mean,
Hedman's approaching 35. Kucherov is weeks away from 32, and Vasilevsky is nearing 31.
Okay.
Well, I mean, that's not young.
Well, no, it's not young, but Point's only 29. Hagel's 26. Sorelli's 27. Nick Paul is 30. I mean, I'm not saying they're young, but I mean, 27, 28, 29, that's kind of the prime of your career.
Right. They got guys in their 30s too.
Right. Well, they do. I mean, most teams do. I mean, Florida does too.
Yeah. Bobrovsky.
Now, I think Florida's a better team than Tampa, or they definitely were in this series for sure. They're more structured defensively. They shut you down. The Lightning actually this year were pretty good at shutting teams down, but they would have lapses. And we would talk about this a lot in games. Like there was that stretch in January, they're on the road a ton, but they played really well, but they made 2 or 3 mistakes and they all end up in the net. And you'd say that all year long. And that's what kind of happened in this Florida series too. Like the lapses, not getting pucks out or icing the pucks, or bad turnovers in the offensive zone. You saw it tonight. Bad turnover at the end of a bad turnover at the end of the power play led to the Bennett goal.
That's right. They lost track of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they lost track of where they are in the power play. Where at that point you can't make that move. You got to get the puck in. Nikita Kucherov tried to go through somebody's legs, turned it over and went the other way. Score. Like those mistakes, Florida doesn't make those mistakes. Not very often. Tampa makes them too much. They were a good defensive team this year, but man, those lapses, they would have bad ones frequently, where the best teams don't. Tampa's a really good team. Florida may be a great team.
They may be. I mean, we may be watching, very similar to what the Lightning were a few years back, but man, I just like watching them. I don't have, the heights and weights and all that. I just feel like, Florida seems bigger. They seem bigger. They seem more. They were definitely more physical.
They play a heavier game. They want to hit you. They want to lean on you. Where that's not what Tampa Bay does. That's not what the Lightning do.
I think that the Lightning, like I said, as they're constructed now, spent a lot of time avoiding hits. And had almost no time with the puck in any place on the ice. There was no safe haven for them with the puck. These guys pressure you 200 feet like every single possession, and they never seem to be out of position, right? Um, it's just it's I mean, they're so good, and I guess you got to give a lot of credit to Florida. I just don't know, knowing how prideful this franchise is and the expectations they've created for themselves and their fans. When you go down and lose, in the first series 3 years in a row, I just got to believe that they're going to take a good hard. They do it would anyway, right? But this is not their standard, and they're not built to beat that Florida team. And so, as they go back and look at it, it's going to be, hey, we got to get a lot tougher. We got to get a lot tougher. We're going to have to, play better defense when it matters. We're going to have to find a way to get points out of our stars. I mean, that would be one of my biggest concerns, Steve, is that, you have a Florida team and that for the past, 3 years or whatever, has been able to shut down your best player. I mean, your best player has to show up. I look at these other series and their best players are playing well. They're scoring. You got 0 goals from Nikita Kucherov again.
Well,
Braden Point, what
I agree. Kucherov's got to be better, and this is really 3 straight playoff series he hasn't noticed. But I would also say Florida's top players weren't really noticeable in this series. Game 1, when they had the 3 power play goals, yes. Take away that game with 3 power play goals. What'd their top players do? There was a third line that was destroying the Lightning.
The third line crushed them, yeah.
That's what happens in the playoffs. A lot of times your top lines can be neutralized because you're playing really good defensive teams.
Right. They take each other away, yeah.
The Lightning won those cups. It wasn't always Cooch and Point and those guys scoring all the time. They scored some, but it wasn't always them. What was Gord, Gaudreau, and Coleman doing? The third line.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
When the Lightning lost to Pittsburgh in 2016 in the Eastern Conference Final, it was the HBK, the Hagelin, Kessel, like that line, the third line. Like that secondary third line performance is crucial in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because your top line is not always going to score because the other team's putting their best players on you every time.
You're going to cancel each other out very often, yeah.
You defend a lot differently in a post-game series than you do in the regular season. And Cooch, Florida, give them a ton of credit. They gave him 0 space, and it's frustrating him, and you can see it on the ice. He has no space, and he's not making good decisions with the puck when he gets it because he's got no space. Give Florida credit. They completely took him out of his game. And, that hurt. I mean, how many turnovers in this series did Cooch end up in rushes the other end?
Yeah, a whole bunch.
Yeah. So, I mean, Florida was by far the better team in this series. Although it wasn't as – game 1 was bad. But this game was 4-3 late in the third. This was a 1-goal game.
It was 3-3, yeah, until the end of the third period, and then they go into third down by a goal. And I was with my daughter, and I was like, they need to get out of this tied and not start the third period down by 1.
Yep.
Because if they give up another goal, the game's over. But that's what they did. I don't know. It's got to be. It's going to be an interesting offseason. It's going to be an interesting offseason because, you have new owners to begin with, right? Our new ownership group coming in. And I think the standard has kind of been set. They want this team to, they manage to get into the playoffs every year. But when you go out, in the first round 3 straight times, there has to be changes or more drastic changes or something that puts you more on an even playing or even ice with Florida. And they just don't. It never felt in this series to me like they were ever in control of anything. I know they won 1 game. They could have, if they close out game 4, they give up the 2 goals in 11 seconds. Of course, they scored 2 goals in 11 seconds, but, they were inside of 4 minutes of evening the series at 2-2. Maybe then everything's different. Maybe then you got some momentum and you got home ice back and Florida is grabbing the sticks a little tighter. I don't know. But that Florida team, man, they are fast. They're efficient. There's not many turnovers. Like they play with the kind of efficiency that the Lightning used to. And, credit Florida, like they were getting beat by the Lightning every year, and they found a way to, to build a team that was their kryptonite. And Florida is the Lightning's kryptonite. They cannot play them on their terms, for whatever reason. They're whether it's, blanketing Kucherov and someone taking away the big stars, pointing those guys or whatever. Would have helped if they had Hagel, no doubt. They were missing one of their top scorers, but that's no excuse. And so I don't know where they'll begin. I guess you're right. Like with the third line was the difference for Florida. You can get better players, I suppose. Some of their young players look like they have a chance to be really good, but they're not there yet.
I think Gage Gonsalves looked fantastic down the stretch.
He was very good in playoffs, yeah, and he had a big goal.
I think Connor Geeky's going to be a good player. I don't think he's there yet, although he did make his presence felt right off the jump too with that hit right off the bat. But he's not there yet, but he's 20 years old. Like he'll be fine. Mitchell Chafee has shown a lot down the stretch.
Yeah, but as those guys need time to grow up, your other guys are getting older.
Mm-hmm. Well, but that's kind of what I mean. The hard part for the Lightning, and it's of their own choosing, and it helped them win cups, is when you give up all those draft picks and prospects, the pool isn't as great to pick from to replenish. And Julian Breezewell, if he wants to make changes, he's going to have to get creative and be bold because everyone's under contract. Your only free agents are Yanni Gourde, Cam Atkinson, Luke Glendening. Gage Gonsalves is a restricted free agent, so he'll be back. Nick Perbix and Jonas Johansson. Those are your only free agents. They're all guys making minimum salaries. Gourde actually has a few million of his, but everybody else making basically minimum salaries. And so, all your big guys that are taking up most of your cap are under contract. So, who are you willing to part with if you want to make changes?
How's this for bold? Trade Nikita Kucherov.
Ooh, that'd be big.
I mean, it sounds like counterintuitive, right? Like you take your biggest of big stars and a guy that, leads the NHL in scoring every year, it seems. But you know what? There's some disconnect with him in the postseason, man. And I you credit Florida, and that's what every team tries to do is take away, the other team's biggest weapons, and that's fine. But I'm telling you, man, he just, yes, he's frustrated. If there were other people that were better, I guess players better around him, I don't know the answer, but you can't disappear as a superstar in this league in the postseason the way he has in terms of scoring goals. Did he have assists here or there? I suppose he did, but even then he just really wasn't a factor. And that frustration, like you're waiting for this guy and it just never seems to happen. And, his value is not going to be any bigger than it is now, so I wonder if I would think that what the currency you could get for a player like that would be pretty large. Now, you might look like an idiot trading away a, superstar and a Hall of Fame player, but they got a lot of Hall of Fame players.
Well, if you get the right pack, I mean, it's all about what you're getting.
It's all about what you get back. Obviously, you're not just going to do it, but like, do you think that everything will truly be on the table when they get in those rooms and they do the postmortem on this season, but not just this season, the last three, right? The last three have been very similar in the way they've ended. I think this team was better this year. I mean, they led the league in scoring. Like they had a lot of positive things throughout the regular season, but it's not showing up whenever it matters in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
So I think this year's a much more disappointing loss than the last two.
Because of the way they played all year?
Oh, because of the way they defended all year. They were a much better defensive team. That's what the last 2 years, 5-on-5 the 5-on-5 play was struggled. They won enough in the regular season, enough big players and that, but their 5-on-5 play wasn't very good. They relied completely on the power play the last 2 years. This year, their 5-on-5 play was fantastic.
The power play wasn't good.
Well, the power play was good during the regular season.
During the regular season, yeah.
But the play in the postseason is very different. the Lightning didn't adapt, didn't change. Florida upped their game and took Tampa Bay completely out of their game. And, is that Kucha's fault? Is it coaching? Did they not make adjustments? Or are the players just so stubborn they won't change? I don't know the answer to that. But, the hardest part for the Lightning is how good were they in the regular season at home? They've lost 9 of their last 10 home games in the playoffs.
That's awful.
That's awful. It's not good enough. You can't drop 9 of 10 on the road.
No, not at home. No. Mm-mm. Yeah, again, it signifies major changes are coming. I hasten to say, like, I don't think anything's off the table or will be. Now, I don't know these new owners, right? And I don't know what Julian Brisebois is thinking or what they think about Julian at this point.
I don't know if the owners have anything to do with it. I mean, I think they want to win. I think they're, from all indications, they're going to keep investing and doing what they're doing. But I think they're going to let Julian Brisebois do what Julian Brisebois thinks he needs to do. That's what Jeff Vinnick's done.
Right.
Like, I hire good people. I trust them to do their jobs. I don't think the ownership has. I don't think they're in there going, you got to make changes. You got to do this. I think they're, Julian, what do you think we need to do? Go do it. I maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see that part of it being an issue. But I think, Julian fixed a lot of issues on the team this year, and through the regular season, it was fantastic. The 5-on-5 play went from like 23rd in the league to top 5, which is what you wanted. You were a top 5 scoring team, a top 5 defensive team, top 5 power play, and top 6 or 7 penalty kill. Like, everything you did in the regular season was fantastic. And the moves you made, not spending $8 million on Steven Stamkos, and maybe you could have got him for less than that, but bringing in Jake Gensel and, trading Sergachev and bringing in Moser and Geekie and everything, seemed to work. Except till you got to the playoffs. Now, granted, you maybe look at the Stanley Cup champ again. They're the defending one, and they're a really good team.
Oh, that would surprise me none if they go all the way again.
I mean, you played a team that has a legit shot to win the Stanley Cup. Not every playoff team does. They do. And they know how to do it, too. I mean, they're kind of where the Lightning were 3-4 years ago.
They make it look easy, Steve. I could not, I've watched this team on TV, but, man, seeing them up close, there's no panic. There's precision.
Mm-hmm.
There's execution. And then there's just this tenacity and confidence that they have. Like they never seem hurried. They never seem flustered or on their heels. Like it's really something to watch. How much pressure they put on you, right? They put on so much pressure on you on both sides of the ice. Like it's something to behold. It really is. But I still think that if the Lightning are going to change their fortunes, they're going to have to be bold. I'm with you. I think they're going to have to do something bold, whatever they determine that to be. But
what's available. I think Julian will make bold moves this offseason. I don't,
Yeah, it takes two, obviously.
Whether they do a Cooch or do they, trade somebody else or, Brisebois will figure out a way to make changes if he wants to make changes.
It all depends on what you get back, obviously. But is great, and Cooch is freaking amazing. That's how he wins the scoring title every year. But if you can't get it done when it matters, I'm trying to think if are there players in other sports that were fantastic during the regular season, but for whatever reason, when you get them in the postseason, they just kind of shrink.
Cowboys quarterbacks.
It's true. Everybody not named Troy Aikman. That's a good one. But you know what I'm saying? Like,
mm-hmm. But here's the thing. And Cooch has been, he could have won 2 Conn Smythe trophies in the 2 cup runs.
Oh, he's had unbelievable years. Yeah.
Vazzy and Hedman won the Conn Smythe those 2 years, but you could have given either one of them to Kucherov. He's performed in the postseason before. It's not like he never has.
Just recently. I don't know. I think a lot may fall on him. I do. I don't know why, but you know, you got to do something. You can't continue down this path. They're not getting closer to Florida. It'd be different if you felt like, well, you know, they lost 4-1 last year, but this year it was a little closer, and they're gaining ground, and they're not.
But to be honest, this year too, I mean, if you want to put the blame on Cooch, you can. But Braden Point wasn't anywhere to be found in this series.
He vanished too. Yeah. So I mean, your stars have to be your stars, man. They are across the league. Lightning didn't get that. They did not get that kind of play. They didn't take advantage of power plays. They did have a goal in this game, but like for the most part,
yeah, their power play.
And I'll say one other thing too. I didn't look at the stats. I don't know what they are, but it felt like they lost damn near every faceoff. Like it felt like that Florida won so many faceoffs. Like that's a glaring, part of their game that needs to improve. However you do that. I mean, Stamkos was a big faceoff guy for him.
The Lightning actually won 53% of the faceoffs.
They did win them? Wow, that's stunning to me. Because as I'm watching it, I'm going, they lost the faceoff again. That really does surprise me.
Now, here's the thing: is and what that doesn't tell you is where the faceoffs were. Like defensive zone faceoffs are more important than a neutral zone faceoff to win.
True.
And special teams faceoffs are more important than even strength faceoffs.
I would think if you're in their offensive end and you lose it, that's not good either.
It's not good, but you're not in a danger situation in that.
You're not giving up a goal right away.
Right. You lose it in your defensive zone, they may have a shot right away.
Right.
I mean, in the neutral zone, if you lose it, you're not in trouble right away.
I'm surprised because it just felt like in real time that, maybe they just didn't win the big ones, but it felt like they were losing an awful lot of those. It's too bad. Like it's always, whatever season you're talking about, like we were walking out of there and they go, okay, Lightning fans, we'll see you next October. And you're going, wait a minute, October? Like, today is May 1st. I mean, all of May, all of June, all of July, all of August, all of September. Gone fishing, as they say, with Charles Barkley and those guys on TNT. Get the sticks out, probably more specifically. But that's a long time to try to, rebrand this team and create it so that it's equipped to beat Florida. Because that's sort of what you have to do now. You have to kind of fashion a team that can play a certain style in the postseason that's going to, help them get out of the first round. But it might just be that their first round opponent keeps being the Stanley Cup champions, much like it was when the Lightning was winning. We just don't know. But boy, was that disappointing. I mean, and the thing is, they scored first, right? And then it was tied. And at one point when it's 3-3, I'm just thinking, I said this to my daughter, I go, if they get the next goal and go up, and then when they went down 4-3, it almost felt like they needed to tie it before they went into the third, and they didn't. And then you kind of knew, if they give up one more goal before they tie it, it's going to be curtains, and it was. And, the inevitable happened. Florida is moving on, and they'll likely play Toronto, right?
Well, that game's now going to game 6. Ottawa's won the last 2, so that series 3-2.
Oh, okay.
It's the only Eastern Conference series that's gone to 6 games.
Got it. Well, it wouldn't surprise me to see this team lift the cup again. And it's just unfortunate they play them in the first round every year. But now you know how the other half felt, when Florida was bowing out all the time. But, one down, we can turn our attention now to the Tampa Bay Rays, who can't play at Steinbrenner Field, so we can get into that a little bit. First of all, hey, go visit our friends at Breitling Boutique International Plaza Mall. If you haven't been there, head on upstairs in the center of the mall. Breitling Boutique is up there. It's a tremendous store with great customer service. They're going to take you aside, and they're going to help you buy the best timepiece you've ever had. Now, the Breitling Company has been in business for over 140 years. They've been at International Plaza for more than 5 years, and they've got all kinds of watches, right, for men, for women. They're known for the Navitimers and the Chronomats, and they've been doing this thing where they have 32 team watches in the NFL celebrating the NFL's 144th anniversary while supplies last. There's a limited amount of these things, but they're absolutely gorgeous. You can go on our website, probably see the Bucs team watch. It's got the the team color on the face with the red, and then the logos in the watch itself. But all of them are absolutely gorgeous, no matter what team you root for. You want to make sure you at least take a look at these. And then women's watches, all kinds of sports watches for your wife, for your girlfriend. These things are durable. They're absolutely beautiful, and she's going to love it. It's Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. And when you go there, make sure you let them all know that you heard about this on Sports Day Tampa Bay. Well, if it wasn't bad enough that the Lightning ended their season, the Tampa Bay Rays continued to struggle mightily at their adoptive home of Steinbrenner Field. They played the Royals again and lost. And this time, I don't think that they had a hit, Steve, before the eighth inning. I think they were.
I think the seventh they got one, but
okay. So
I was at the Lightning game, so I didn't necessarily see.
Yeah, they went.
I know they were no hit after 6,
and it was a rookie pitcher that they were facing. On top of that, so
yeah, his debut.
They have ways of disappearing in that lineup for many innings at a time. It's very bizarre. They just haven't hit well, especially at Steinbrenner. So they dropped that game, and they have a chance to maybe try to salvage one. I guess this afternoon sometime. But it's just they returned home. Had that great road trip. You go 5-1, you get back to 500, and then you get home. It's just like not playing very well in front of the home fans. So hopefully that's straightened out. And then finally, Jason Licht was on Pat McAfee talking about his draft, and I think most people liked his draft. They might have been surprised that they took Emeka and Bucs, with their first pick. But character has become such a big part of the Bucs draft board these days. I mean, it really has been an emphasis the last 3, 4, 5 years. And Jason Licht told Pat McAfee in talking about how the character fits on their draft board, he said, and I'm quoting here, "It's really not that hard. We put the players that are worthy of being drafted on the draft board like every other team does. But then we just kind of take I'm going to water this down, the a-holes and the D-bags off, and the guys that don't love football and the guys that have proven they don't like it and that are difficult to deal with. And we just kind of mitigate our risk. And we're taking great players that are also great humans." Jason Licht with the colorful language on McAfee, going all McAfee on McAfee. But he's right in terms of I think that's one of the reasons why they love this draft is that each year the character of these players really stand out, and that's how you win. They're good football players too, and I don't think they're compromising on that. But more emphasis on the personalities and the off field comportment of these guys and the maturity of them, and they find out that if you get good players that are also high character guys, you never have to worry. You're never going to be disappointed. And that's sort of, I think that philosophy has served them well. I think that's why they're back, to being perennial, NFC South champions, and see if they can push this thing forward. I still think that there's a big part, of this draft. And I think they addressed a lot of needs, to say the very least. But getting Mbuka, I really think it's a little bit of an acknowledgement that, Chris Godwin may not be ready. Like, we don't know. We hope he is. And but even Jason has said, at least this way, we don't have to feel like we're rushing him. He's signed for a couple more years, which is, in the NFL, a long-term deal, that this will take maybe the pressure off or the expectations of Godwin being available week 1. If he's not, he's not. There's nothing to suggest that he won't be at this point. There hasn't been a setback. But I do think they realized probably early on that, he had one hell of a horrific injury. It's his second one. And even if he's on the field, we don't know what we're getting. And so, if something were to happen to Mike and he wasn't himself, then now you got issues. So, and I also think that they just thought they just loved Emeka. They loved everything about the kid. Character was so high that combined with the talent, they weren't going to pass him. I know they had him much higher on their draft board than where they got him at 19. They would have taken him, I think, in the top 10. I really believe that. And, I think Jason has more or less confirmed that with his talks. So, yeah, it's no more lightning. It's the abrupt end of a season is always upon us. It's always crazy. I was walking out of the arena, Steve, and they go, "Thanks, Lightning fan. See you in October, or you'll to be the Thunder or whatever." I'm thinking October, man, that's crazy. It's a long time,
Yep.
long
Now,
off season.
probably Friday or maybe over the weekend or maybe even Monday, we'll hear from players, and we'll also hear from Julian Breezeball, who usually goes through the list of injuries.
Yeah, and you'll find out
that's always
who's playing
telling,
hurt.
too.
Yeah,
That's always telling of, what some of these guys went through and still played, or why maybe they weren't as effective. And we'll see if some of the
maybe
stars were among
Kucherov was
them.
one of those guys.
It may be. I mean, they're very secretive about, who's dealing with what. So it'll be interesting to see what comes about of that.
Yeah, that's always an interesting press conference, and just sort of what their immediate reaction is for the path forward. I don't know. We can discuss this on another podcast, but which franchise now is closer to a championship? It's a good debate, right?
Yeah, it might be the Bucs.
It might be the Bucs. It really might be the Bucs, which is saying something. But
I think you could definitely say they're the best team in their division.
Right. And
you can't say that about the Rays and Lightning. Now, you don't have to win your division to make the playoffs and win your championship.
True. Yeah.
But
it's a great debate, but I think you're right. I think at this point, I think the Rays are still sort of too young in many areas, and feeling their way, and they got a lot of things in front of them. We'll talk about it maybe on our next podcast, but really, I really do think that you can make that argument that maybe the Buccaneers are the closest to a championship, and I don't know how close they are, but closer. Anyway, hope you guys have a great day. We want to make sure you get to Breitling Boutique, check them out. Great sponsors of ours, and they've got tremendous Swiss watches, the best timepiece you'll ever have, great customer service. And when you go there, let them know that you heard about it on Sports Day Tampa Bay. Thanks for listening. For Steve Versnick, I'm Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Have a great day, everybody.